Hello and welcome to this lunch session at the BA Beyond conference. I'm happy to announce two people from the master channel, Lien and Jasper, on the topic Optimize the Experience, Fix the Machine. And I think the topic is quite important. I mentioned at the beginning in the introduction how both foreground and background people together make a magical experience happen. And there is a lot of focus, and rightfully so, on making that foreground experience, user experience, customer experience, on making that as frictionless, as smooth, as nice as it can be. But of course, that front-end experience can only exist if the backend is working as well. And so in that sense, I am very keen to find out what Jasper and Lien have to tell about this. Jasper and Lien, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Philip. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our lunch session about Optimize the Experience, Fix the Machine by the Master Channel. The Master Channel, the e-learning platform for everything related with business analysts and digital transformation as a whole. My name is Jasper. This is my colleague, Lien.
Hi, everyone.
To kick off, I'd like to tell you a travel story. So a few years ago, I had a dream. On a lazy Sunday evening, I was watching some wildlife documentary, and I realized, okay, those animals, I want to see them in real life. So I decided I'm going to plan a trip to South Africa. So more or less a year ago, I convinced some friends to go with me. So we started our journey by searching a flight via Google Flights. After some hours of searching, we booked a way too expensive KLM flight, but nevertheless, we were so excited we could go, so no problem. Few days before departure, I received a mail from KLM in which they proposed to check in online to avoid queues in the airport. We could also select our seat, so we are sure we sit together. We can order a meal. We could even talk virtually with the people who will be sitting next to us, so we can start a conversation before the flight already. Mm-hmm. So we did what they asked us. We did the online check-in. We downloaded our boarding pass on our smartphone, and we were ready to go. The trip itself was amazing. It was even better than I experienced. I saw all the animals I was dreaming of before. So Lien, I don't know if you're an animal lover, but in that case, you should definitely do that trip.
All right, noted.
Besides the animal spotting, we did some other things too. But after 3 weeks, it was time to go home. So we did the same procedure. We checked in online to avoid the queues, and we were ready to go home. We onboard, we take a seat, and we wait until the plane departs. But then a message from the pilot the moment we depart. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to inform you that the radar of the plane is broken. Therefore, we are unable to communicate with the control tower, so we are not able to depart. More information in an hour. Well, this was not exactly the way how we want to end that amazing trip. An hour later, a new message from the pilot. Ladies and gentlemen, they are currently fixing the plane's radar. This will be done in 45 minutes. So still waiting in the plane. Exactly 45 minutes later, the pilot told us, ladies and gentlemen, the radar is fixed. We are ready to taxi. We finally are ready to go home. During takeoff, I started to realize, what about my connecting flight? I had a connecting flight in Amsterdam. We had a delay of approximately 2 hours. We had a time gap between the flights of approximately 2 hours, so it will be very close. Before I started completely to stress out, the pilot gave us an update. As soon as the plane was on cruising altitude, he said, passengers for Brussels, gate B17, passengers that will miss their connecting flight will be contacted by our stewards. I was relieved because in the case I missed the flight, I knew what I have to do. I have to contact the stewards. Finally, we were on time for our connecting flight. We had to run, but we were on time. So, last step before heading back. But what about my luggage? there was no way my luggage was on time to be loaded. So I was really prepared for the worst. Where is my luggage? So while leaving the plane in Brussels, I immediately received a text message to inform me that my luggage was delayed. I received a link in the message, and they asked me in the link to fill in my contact details. KLM promised on that website to return my luggage within 24 hours, which was perfectly fine to me because I didn't need the stuff so quickly. So, as they promised, the next day I received a call from KLM delivery service. Hello, sir, we are ready to return your luggage. Is the following address still correct? So I confirmed the address and told them I wasn't home, but someone else would be there to receive the luggage. When I came back home, it turned out that they returned the wrong suitcase. It was exactly the same. This one was black, I have a blue one, so I was prepared for the worst. I was getting furious. So what do I have to do? I immediately called back the courier and I told him, okay, this is the wrong suitcase. He told me, no problem, sir, we will deliver the right one later today. And finally, the same day, they did. So I had my luggage back. Why do I tell this story, Lien? Many things went wrong on that day. It was really a series of unfortunate events, but still I had the feeling that it was quite a good experience to me. So you, as an expert, can you tell me what are typical characteristics of such a great customer experience?
Yeah, great question. I think that's what we're here for as well. And I think it's also a question that everyone who works with or around products and services should ask themselves. And indeed, if we were to analyze this experience, we'll see that it satisfies a lot, if not all, of the characteristics of a great service. So, for example, one thing that they clearly did at KLM was analyzing the basic needs of their customers. And it's very, very important to get those basic rights, because oftentimes you see companies putting in a lot of effort in special things that will delight their customers, but they forget about the oh so important basics.
So in my case, in my KLM case, what would be such a basic need?
So something that I think of is, for example, being able to check in online, to have your boarding pass on your phone. That has become a very recent basic requirement for people. And they get those basic rights by enabling for personal preferences and putting the customer in control as well. So you have the choice between printing or downloading your boarding pass, between booking a meal, etc. But very important, if you want to allow those things, is that it's effortless for customers. So doing one or the other, it shouldn't require more efforts. So it should be effortless. And oftentimes that touches upon having a clear and good cross-channel approach. So being able to do it on your laptop as well as on your mobile phone, and it should be seamlessly integrated, very fluent, very effortless.
Exactly. That was something I really liked in the experience. I can check in online via my laptop just after work. Afterwards, I receive the boarding pass on my smartphone, get the notifications of certain delays, other stuff on my smartphone. So I have all the information I need wherever or whenever I need them.
Yeah, indeed. And one important thing as well is you lose less time doing so. You don't have to wait in line. So it's all those things together that combine getting those basics right. And it also kind of touches upon a second characteristic of a good or a great service. And that is satisfying our higher objectives or satisfying the higher objectives of our customers. So in essence, an airline is supposed to get you from point A to B. Mm-hmm. But if you do only that, you won't satisfy your customers. You have to put in a lot more than that. So we have to make sure it's efficient with an online check-in, that it's pleasant for people as well. So the experience becomes much better. You know, you can eat on a plane, you don't lose as much time, you're not hungry, and it also adds to like the, typical feeling, I'm on a trip, it's fun, So very important.
Something that impressed me as well during that experience was their regular updates. They said they would have an update in an hour, and they did the update in an hour. Even though they did not have a solution, they did the update.
Yeah, it's very important as well. It's pivotal to set and meet customer expectations. So if you make a promise, you also have to make sure to keep it, because if you don't, people will feel very disappointed. And even if you're not able to offer more information, like in your case, okay, we will be fixing it, it's very important to do the update and to communicate it properly as well, because the negative impact of not keeping your promise is actually a lot bigger than not making the promise at all.
Yeah, I completely agree, because that part of the experience was mainly one of the reasons why I was convinced in the end everything will be all right.
Yeah. Clear and proactive communication is very important to take the stress away in a bad situation. And it's one of the biggest opportunities you have to turn negative emotions into positive ones. And very important here as well is that there's still a need for a human touch in this digital world that we live in, because if someone brings us bad news personally versus receiving an email or a text notification, it leaves a different feeling behind. So you clearly see that they tackle that well. In this case, for example, the positive news and the general information, they did it by or through the pilots, whereas the stewards were the ones that had to bring the news. Okay, you won't be able to get to your connecting flight. So definitely thought about very well as well.
Okay, so it's not just about having a fancy app, a nice website. It's also about the people who has to communicate those messages on the plane itself.
Yeah, indeed. And it becomes even more important if you think about, so, you have your happy flow and everything goes all right, but it's when there's exceptions, when things go wrong, you can make a very big difference. It might be even more important to make sure that those parts are aligned properly, and you can't leave anything to chance there. So you need to make sure that your processes, but also very importantly, your people and applications are streamlined. And that's actually what we see here. The various processes, people are clearly well integrated. Okay, you've got the flights takeoff. Okay, we've got a delay. The returning of the luggage, it's kicked off. So definitely thought about very well. Maybe one last characteristic that I'd like to mention here is to make it fun. I mean, life is fun, or should be fun.
It is.
So we want to make this experience fun as well.
So if we're looking at the list of characteristics of a great customer experience, it looks quite easy to create this experience. But in my opinion, looking at my personal experiences, I've only had 1 or 2 positive cases like this one, and many negative customer experiences. So is it important as a company to design a great customer experience?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the same for everyone. The few happy stories and the many sad stories. And if we would look at some numbers, it becomes even more clear how severe the problem is and why companies should do better. So for example, first one, 39% of people continue to avoid companies 2 or more years after a bad experience.
Sounds like great potential loss for revenues.
Yeah, indeed. And something else, 86% of buyers will pay more for a better customer experience, but only 1% of those customers feel that companies consistently meet their expectations. So in my opinion, if you have a great customer experience, it can be a great differentiator as well.
So I'm convinced that great customer experience is so important for a company, looking at those numbers. But what if I want to start creating this great experience? What is the best way to approach this? Where do I start?
Yeah, so there's 2 things to analyze. Philip mentioned them briefly as well. So we have to look at the experiences of the customers and the feelings that they have on the one hand, and on the other hand, there's the processes in our companies. And to create a good service, we have to align those.
Okay, sounds good.
So first up would be to why do we need to optimize the experience, is what we call it. So analyze our customer needs. And it all starts from our customers that have emotions, that have feelings, and we need to learn how to capture them. And even more importantly, we have to learn how to shape them into positive experience, into positive feelings.
Talking about capturing experiences, is it about customer journeys? Because I often heard about customer journeys as a good technique. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think customer journeys can be one of them. I would say it's probably what 99% of business analysts have already heard about. Might be a different number, but it's bigger than only that. It's the whole concept of services design that we should be looking at, and it's the design of the overall experience to improve customers and make them happy, make them feel positive. And to do so, we need a very deep customer understanding, and there's a lot more out there than only customer journeys to do so. And with all these tools, we have the potential to deeply analyze and map our touch points with our customers and see how they feel about it. And that's very important.
Okay, so the customer journey is a technique, but not the only technique out there.
Yeah, definitely. And the next step would be to fix the machine.
Yeah.
So we want to fix the machine with great business process management.
Yeah, I might know some things about that. Building a business process architecture is not just writing down your current business processes in a modeling notations like BPMN. It's not just the as-is situation. If you want to make your processes more efficient, we need to manage and measure them in a proper way. The success of those processes, as mentioned before, is not only process itself, but also the people doing them. So don't forget them.
Yeah, definitely.
So, okay, we know what are experiences. We can capture them with various techniques. We have processes in companies. Okay, next question, how can we connect those two? Do we need to align them, and how can we do this?
Yeah, definitely, we do have to align them. So to optimize the experience, so that's what we're after in the end, we have to ask ourselves some questions like, what is the customer trying to achieve? Which actions do they take? How do they take those actions? And very importantly, I mentioned it already, how do they feel about it? And our processes are the things that actually should provide a very clear response to those questions. So we want the processes and steps that drive the experience. Ideally, we also have the correct applications at the right time that support these processes and the actions of the customer. And as mentioned previously as well, the human touch is very important. Robots are not here yet, so it can be a great difference if you have the people, the right people on the right place.
So applying to my travel story, we can say the process return lost luggage is a well-designed process, very efficient, supported with automated text messages, with the right applications, the right technology, but also people calling to make arrangements is the human touch in this process.
Yeah, indeed, it's a great example of optimizing the experience and fixing the machine behind it. So perfect example.
Great.
And so for all of you out there, if you want to learn more about this topic, there's a course coming to the Master Channel very, very soon, amongst all other courses related to business analysis and other digital transformation skills. We can always continue the conversation in our virtual booth as well, so don't hesitate to drop in. And there you will also be able to find out how you can get a free account on the Master Channel and get access to the whole course library for free. So not a joke, for free, for real. And next to that, we also offer you some free 15-minute consulting talks with our experts behind the Master Channel. So for example, if you always wanted to know if your BPMN is any good, that's a question that you can definitely ask them.
Well, that's great to hear. But for now, that was it. Thank you for tuning in this lunch session about customer experience by the Master Channel. If you've had any questions during our talk, we're happy to hear them from Philip. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jasper and Lien, for this nice presentation. Also for you, we have prepared a warm round of applause. It's not the same as a real public applause, but it's I think, something that comes a little bit close to it.
Yeah.
We've had quite a bit of quite good attendance. I just see a question coming in from Ellen. How do you quantify the return on investment on user experience?
That's a very great question. I think there's a lot of elements that you can count in. It's very important, first of all, that you are able to measure everything. So getting the right data on the right time is very important. So that's a very important element. And with that data, you could, for example, look at, so for the master channel, it would be looking at, have we been able to get more accounts, things like that. Depends on what drives your business as well.
And important to mention, before being able to analyze this data, make sure you have your data right, in the right way, in the structured, in the correct way before starting to analyze them.
Yeah, okay. And by taking small steps and actually showing the return on investment, you can build confidence in your organization, I guess, to keep on investing in it.
Yeah, and it's not a one big bang thing. So we don't have to completely turn around our customer experience and do that. We can take small steps in improving it. And always when we change something, we want to do sort of an experiment. We will measure, how does this change our numbers? How does this change the data? And that way we will be able to steer ourselves in the correct path and see if we are making the correct decisions. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it makes me think of another question where BAs are often involved. That is to clarify what are the things that we are actually measuring on, because that's not always clear in an organization. Is there a true focus on certain metrics, let's say? So it kind of trigger additional interesting questions. Another question that I had, you can think of numerous examples of features, big and small, to improve the customer experience. A very simple example that I keep on coming across is, for example, on a website that you need to enter data in a form, but that you first have to click in the first field. I still can't understand. It's not that difficult to make that field focused at the start. And so this is a very simple example. There are more complex examples as well. Can you give some tips on analyzing and prioritizing this huge list of features?
Yeah, there's various tools and techniques to do that, but I think it's important to gather a great team around your product or service that you're building. So it can be a development team, but also people that know the product inside out, maybe even some people from sales and marketing that know what the customers are asking. What am I forgetting? UX designers, obviously, for the also important small things if you have a form. So gathering a great team, I think, is one of the essential steps. And then from each point of view, actually, you will be able to discuss things that might be important now, might be important later. And that way together, you will be able to figure it out. So in my opinion, the team and how to discuss this and discuss it with your team is a very important element there.
Okay, interesting. And should the team then decide upon like parameters to decide on the priority, or is it okay to just have an informal discussion and come to a result together?
That obviously depends on how mature your team is. There's various techniques to do so. One thing that we, for example, have is a user story map. So we'll see, okay, which touch points in our journey are we currently working on, and what do we build, or what do we want to build to help optimize that experience, and what can we do now, and what should we do later. So what small little things could help us now, for example. Yeah.
And by using that user story, maybe good to add that we are sure we won't forget any touch points
Yeah.
for the customer.
Yeah. Okay, it makes the story very visible and concrete. Yeah. Okay, good tip. I see a question or a comment coming in from Chris. After discussion with the team, go to the end user and check the importance, for example, using A/B testing, etc. Seems like a valid remark. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. So doing the experiments and actually testing it out on so A/B testing is just one of the possible things. You can, for example, also install a fake door and see how many people. So maybe, for example, put a button there like download now and see how many people click it. It's also something that you can do. But here again, very important, make sure that you are able to measure everything. You know who clicks what, maybe it's related to certain companies, to certain types of user. So definitely an option though.
Okay, that's good. Make sure you can measure it. And that's, again, something where both development and analysts need to collaborate as a team to make sure that is easy and gets done structurally. Okay, thank you very much. We already need to close the session because in a few minutes' time, the afternoon sessions will start, but people can follow up with you in the chat and in the online booth in the community. So I do hope that attendees drop by and of course also to grab that free access to the master channel.
Yeah.
Thank you once again and see you around at the conference.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.